Hi, Ian Roberts, and welcome to this weekly video on composition and the laboratory of the painting process. This week I wanted to look at the relationship between the picture plane and the structure that I've been talking about these last few weeks, and have a look at a beautiful Vermeer. So I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you at the end. Bye for now. So let's talk about structure again. If you have a square, and you have a painting that's a rectangle, obviously the dynamism of what happens on these two are entirely different. Like if you were to put a shape here and a shape here, you create way more tension or dynamism with this empty space compared to that than you do, say, with a square. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because a friend of mine, a painter, was talking about the first image I used, this one here, to describe this idea of the horizontal, the vertical meeting at a center of interest. That structure that I've been talking about. And she said it's way over here, which is interesting, but maybe unusual for someone that's always heard about, putting things on the third. But look at this painting by Andrew Wyeth. And he's got the building crammed about as far up here as you could possibly get it and still keep it in the building. Keep it in the painting. And this painting by Len Schmiel, who is still very much alive, by the way, meaning most of the artists I'm using are historical, which means to art dealers dead. But look, his center of interest is crammed right up here. And then there's this painting of mine where you can see in this sketch that there's a cypress that holds a lot of attention here, and the vines are coming into that. But then there's this big movement of the trees and this one beneath the vines that comes over to that blue hit of color for the hill. And again, you're taken way off to one side. So, when you hear about the idea of the thirds and, putting your center of interest here, but what does here mean? The center of interest isn't a dot. Let's say it's a building, and if you put the building there, it would be very different than putting it here. And you realize when you paint, I'm sure you've had the experience, that things kind of move around. They do tend, when you're setting things up, in a really edgy way off here, they do tend to just kind of slide back. We have this need to create harmony or something, and the closer it is to the middle, the less dynamic it is. And for some reason, things as we're painting just sort of slide that way. And by the time you finish, the building ends up here, and you thought, wait a minute, I thought I had it up on the third. So where you put it relative to the third, obviously, is really important. This painting by Edward Seago actually follows the thirds on 3 of its sides. It's really interesting. And then, of course, the idea of not putting the center of interest dead in the middle, because it's sort of static. But, that's a convention. It's not a rule. Look at this painting by Rackstraw Downs, also alive. And he's very intently put his center of interest in the middle. Or this painting of mine of a tree, but look at the way the road sweeps around it to create dynamism around that center image. So that idea of setting up a horizontal and a vertical that interacts at the center of interest can go a long way towards unpacking this thing of composition and building a foundation that'll work. And this has almost infinite variety to it. It's just a way to get started to enter this whole arena until you've actually got it mastered. So this painting by Vermeer, I wanted to show you the structure. He always has such strong considerations of the structure within the picture plane. So the center of interest is that edge there, because it's the hardest edge, and even the figure is looking at it, right? I mean, the line of light here, everything is kind of leading to that in terms of what the figure's looking at. But look at the vertical here that runs down the armoire, the books, and the corner of the room. It's implied down here, even though we can't see it. And it intersects with the line that runs here along the arm through the middle of the globe into here. So we see that the center of interest is structured by those two main vertical and horizontal lines. But then you get these wonderful lines like this one that comes down here, and this one that comes down the cloth here, along here, and down to here. I mean, there's such beautiful rhythms in this painting. So I hope you found that helpful. This idea of the foundation that the composition creates in your painting is something that we'll just continue looking at, because this idea also of just the horizontal and vertical leading to a center of interest is pretty much infinitely flexible. You can just be using that as the foundation for thinking about composition for quite some time. And, you know, look at this painting by Diebenkorn. I mean, for 25 years, the Ocean Park series was really just exploring the structure of the picture plane. Or Moriarty, he just painted the same bottles for 50 years. I mean, you can follow one idea along for quite a long time without it getting sort of overworked. So this is the last video for 2019. The next one, next week would be New Year's Eve, so I'm not going to do a video that week. And so the next video will be January 7th. And just before we leave, I want to ask you if you have any ideas you want to talk about, want me to talk about, images you want me to talk about, just please send them, email me and let me know. If you've got any friends you think would be interested in this series, please share it with them. I think we'll just continue to look at structure for certain, but as we do that, we'll also start looking at, once we close that structure in the color shapes of a painting, we'll look at the edges between those color shapes and at color intensity, and there'll be lots of things we can look at within the whole arena of looking at composition. So listen, I hope you have a great Christmas, a really good holiday, a wonderful new year, and I'll see you January 7th, 2020. Bye for now.